Good morning, everybody. It's Jean here. Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. Today, later on today, I'm going to be finishing a project that I was working on, sort of a little bit of a tutorial. I had purchased these 6-inch vintage tablecloth, already cut squares from the quilt show that I had gone to several months ago. And I have a tutorial on how I was putting my squares together to make a very large quilt with my sashing, my pink and white sashing my striped sashing that I use. That's because of the situation we find ourselves in, being in a temporary apartment here. Instead of using very, very long sashing strips, I show you in my tutorial how you just sash each block individually. Makes it much easier. And actually, I was telling you in one of my last videos that I do have a tutorial coming up using 10-inch squares and how to sort of self-sash that quilt. I'm waiting on the border fabric. I want to put that all together in the next video or so. So I have gotten my quilt back. I actually sent my quilt out to a long arm quilter. This is a very large quilt. This is a king size quilt. And as you know, you've been watching me, I am very capable of quilting a king size quilt on my sewing machine, my domestic home sewing machine. The trick is to have a very large table behind you, on the side of you, and working, not being daunted by it, but having a lot of support and just working on a bit at a time. Having said that, I don't have my usual setup here. So I sent my quilt out. I think about now I've sent about 6 quilts to a long arm quilter. There's many of them all over the country, varying prices and pricing and designs. I like Quilting by David. As you know, he's in Missouri. I'll put the link down below to his website. He's awesome. The turnaround is very quick. Maybe a week or 10 days you get your quilt back. Unbelievable. It costs some money, but it's well worth it for me to, at this moment in my life, not to have wrestled my large quilt in my little sewing machine here. So this is my quilt, and I'm going to put up I will show it to you finished when I have it bound and everything, because I got it back not too long ago. But I'm going to put up my camera and show you there are beautiful feather quilting stitches. It's an all-over pattern, but you can actually see the beautiful feather stitches that was quilted out by David and his team out there on his long arm, which I think for this pattern, squares together, okay, they have images on them, but I think it makes a very cohesive quilt top. So again, when you're quilting, you have to think about your quilting design. Now again, I'm gearing my show towards beginners, and I always advocate what? Straight stitching. Straight stitching. If you have learned free motion quilting, by all means, but if you're a beginner, just stitching in the ditch, and maybe on like this, on this size here, stitch in the ditch each side there, and then maybe 2 lines down and 2 across in a grid pattern. That's perhaps how I would have tackled my quilt, or I would have done my free motion quilting circles. As you know, I have done feather quilting with stencils. That's a previous video, but for now I've sent this out. David has done a beautiful job, and this is the back of my quilt. I had gotten this large wide backing, and again I chose this backing fabric to almost make it reversible, but to make it look sort of down home looking, you know, that sort of country look to go with the vintage tablecloths. I am going to be, within the next few days, I'm going to be using pink and white striped, the exact pink and white stripe for my binding. I will be cutting 2 1/4 inch strips and binding my, I've done this 1,000 times. I don't really want to bore you. I thought, oh, maybe I'll put my camera up and show you how I bind a quilt, but you've seen it a million times. I attach my binding to the back, and then I flip it over to the front and do a nice straight stitch. I always machine my bindings down, and I will curve the corners of my quilt. As you know, that's what I do. But that's my quilt. I wanted to share with you just a few projects, not my Truelove challenge, but just a few projects that you folks have sent in to me. Now, I had asked, because I'm not doing a tremendous amount of quilting, if we in this community can just sort of share projects you have made from watching me and my tutorials in the past. If you're new here, I've not been sewing because we had a bit of a disaster. We had a tornado and a hurricane, and our home is uninhabitable right now, and we are living in temporary accommodation. So I'm not doing a tremendous amount of tutorials. So I did ask if you would send in your photographs of your projects, whatever it is, quilt, or these are some bags, some runners, to my Truelove Quilts for You at gmail.com. You finish a project that you've done from mine. I think it's awesome. Now this, if you want to add a little story, you can. This woman didn't, but I did look her up. This is from Marie, and Marie made my actual little tulip bag. There's no story here, but her fabric is just absolutely delightful. It's like book fabric. It's super, and it looks like a beautiful blue quilted, almost looks like satin, but I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's a quilted cotton. But here is Marie's lovely project, her tulip tote. That was absolutely beautiful. I love it. And it's blue. I do like it. I think blue's growing on me. As you know, blue's not my favorite color, but a lot of people do things in blue, and it's growing on me. Now this is from Jane. Jane, you know who you are. Hi, Jean. Something quilts and table runners. I still have to quilt the last 2 block party quilts, but I will get there. I might bail and get them quilted by a long armor. That's not bailing. That's like being sensible. That's called sometimes quilting by checkbook, which I did. As you know, I advocate trying to quilt your quilt on your domestic machine. Again, challenge yourself. But there are a lot of factors that people just can't. It does take some muscle if you're doing a bigger quilt. It does take space. It does take patience. And a lot of quilters absolutely choose to send their quilt top to a long arm quilter to finish it. And absolutely, that's super. I've been doing some smaller quilts and projects. I made the fabric box, there you go, and in the middle of doing some more. Yes, I hope you get your heating fixed soon. We had some heating problems a while ago. My very best wishes to you and your family. So here are 3 beautiful, lovely quilts that Jane has made. Awesome. And I believe this one, the first one, the pastel, the pinks, is from one of my block parties. And then the runner, which I had done in blue and yellow, the second picture is a beautiful, beautiful table runner. And then the third one, it looks like the cathedral windows. Just absolutely beautiful. And this is also one from Jane. This is a beautiful Bargello quilt. I have done I was intimidated myself with Bargellos because I have dyscalculia, and I don't do math and I don't do numbers. Well, if you look at an actual Bargello quilt, all it is are numbers. Oh, cut this, and I loved the look of it, but I just could not wrap my head around the numbers. So I actually just sort of made it up on the fly as I was going. just cutting strips and keeping my strips in order, and it really worked out, my quilt. And Jane has done a beautiful job with her Bargella. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so again, Jane, so very much. Now this is a lovely quilt, but I don't have a name for it, just their email address, but you know who you are. Hi, Jean, I thought I'd send you a picture of my Scrabble quilt. It's not near as big as yours, but I had fun doing it. It's just that the letters are a little bit tricky to get in there straight, but I'm happy how it turned out. So I thought I'd send it to you. You could see it if you do such an awesome work. Thank you so much. My Scrabble quilt is packed away, hopefully safely. When we had a flood in our home after a tornado hit it, we had flash flooding, we had to quickly pack things away. We lost a lot of things in the basement of our home where things were stored, but my Scrabble quilt was up in our living room. So I believe that's been packed away. I hope it is. We have we have a tremendous amount of names because we have a large family. I think I just added our grandson's new wife, and I have our son got married. So I believe the last thing I did is I added two more names. That was made 37 in our family, but we have 3 grandchildren due in the next few months. So I'm going to have to get out my Scrabble quilt and add the little girls' names. We're having girls to my Scrabble quilt. There'll be 41 names. So whoever this is, you know who you are. You didn't have quite as many names as the Trueloves, but here is your Scrabble quilt. Thank you so much. I'll just wind this up right now. I'm gonna go cut my binding for my lovely quilt and finish this up. Now, if you remember when I was making this quilt, I was going to save this quilt because it's a large king-size quilt for when we do get back into a new home, our old home, whatever home we're going to find ourselves in the future. Things have taken a not a drastic turn, but an unusual turn because of the economy. All of a sudden, the prices of things, as you know, across the country have skyrocketed. Homes here are through the roof. The home we lived in, which our son owned, needs more work than was deemed before because of the flood and because of the property damage when the tornado hit it. It's a tremendous amount of work. We don't know if we're going to be going back there. Our children say no, but then it's like, where do we find a house for dear old mom and dad, or an accommodation? So it was causing me a tremendous amount of stress being displaced. It's no fun, but we have accepted the situation, living day by day. As we say, we pray that Jehovah God knows exactly what we need and will provide for it. And if something is very hard and it's not meant to be, we always say that. And we are here. We are here in a 2-room apartment. going from a very large 4-bedroom house to a 2 rooms. But it's okay. It really is okay. We count our blessings every day. I always tell you that. And I really mean that. We do count our blessings. And whatever is meant to be is meant to be. But our children, we have 10 children. Our 9 sons and our daughter are working feverishly to try to figure something out for us. What would be suitable at this stage in our life. We had a large home for our family, and then we had a smaller home for our son Maxwell, our youngest son, and my husband and I. And as we're getting older, perhaps we need a rancher, a 1-story, which we did have. But that's interesting because that 1-story home that we lived in, that I've filmed quite a few videos in, with my lovely ladder and my lovely shelves in my sewing room, you know it. I did a tour of that sewing room. That home is going to be raised in the air. It's going to be lifted 9 foot. I believe that's going to be starting in April. That home is going to actually be lifted by professional home builders. And again, we don't know if it's possible for us to go back to that home. And if it is, again, it's going to be a 2-story home. But whatever, we're not that old and creaky that we don't want to, not do stairs. It would be okay. But our main concern is our son Maxwell. You all know Maxwell. And as it is here, he's far away. This is a large home. He's far away in another wing of the house. It's okay. However, in our previous 2 homes, our family home and the last home, he was right next door to us. And I do believe he wants to be more closer to us. So we're just leaving it. We're just leaving our situation. We're praying about it, and whatever happens, happens. And in the meantime, we are very, very blessed. We're very blessed to have this community here and our lovely brothers and sisters in our congregation who are just looking after us and praying for our sanity. Because some days we do have bad days. Being displaced, as I said, is not fun. But we are here, and I am going to be quilting a quilt, and I'm not going to wait for my king-size bed. I'm going to be putting it on our small bed, my queen-size bed here when I finish the binding. I'm going to use it. I'm going to enjoy it. My lovely little vintage tablecloth squares. Super! What you can do with 6-inch squares. And a lovely bit of fabric. I will be getting to my tutorial for my 10-inch squares soon, but I thought I would just share with you some lovely projects that my friends out there in YouTube land have made. And again, I really appreciate it, folks. We really appreciate all your support, all of your prayers at this odd time in our lives. The whole dynamic of my channel has changed very much. I was like creative and making, and I'm not much anymore, but you guys understand that. And again, thank you very, very much for everything. And as always, love from the Trueloves. All right, see ya. Bye.